what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are doing the continuation of the threat hunting path. We're doing the threat hunting pivoting. This is part of the SOC level 2, and because they came out with the SAL1 cert, I want to make sure we follow the path because the recommended path is SOC level 1 and SOC level 2. SOC level 1 I think needs some rework, so I'm not going to do the whole SOC level 1 path. SOC level 2, I'm going to do the more advanced stuff. I say that because some of it's just literally reading. I'm not going to just read it to you guys, but we're going to cover the threat hunting. We've already done 2 of them, and now this is the pivoting piece, right? So first thing we got to do is start up the actual threat hunting box, which we did, and now we're waiting for the attack box to start up so we can log into the server here, and then we should be able to start threat hunting. So without further ado, let's dive into it. All right, so first thing with threat hunting that they don't actually cover really here is the planning phase, and I say they don't cover it here, so we'll go to this to show you the path we're on. You can see you have introduction, foothold, pivoting. They're showing you more of basically how once the threat hunt's already decided and everything, but it's really important that you plan your threat hunts accordingly so you know what you're looking for and you're not just spraying and praying, because if you're just going out there and just trying to get any information you can, you're really gonna find yourself getting information that isn't actionable, which makes it kind of useless information. And so you don't want to do that. You want to get information that's actually relevant, and every environment, is unique in what's relevant to them. And so you need to plan your threat hunts out. Okay, so the discovery tactic, this is again based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So you can click here and you can go read about it on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. First, the actions an attacker may take to understand better the systems and networks they've infiltrated. So once they've taken over the network, they're going to start discovering stuff, right? They're going to start looking for things. They're going to start running commands like this: who am I, net user, net local group, all that jazz, right? When that starts to happen, basically what you're looking at is something anomalous. Does it look out of place, right? And you're looking for those specific things. So for instance, if you know based on your enterprise that every one of your admins uses who am I every day, does it make sense for you to go in and do a threat hunt searching for who am I being ran? No, you're going to find all kinds of results. You're going to have to dig through it. You're going to have to reach out to users. It's just a waste of time. But if you know, hey, we have nobody that ever runs net local group because we have a tool that we use instead of that, then you might start to break that down and go, okay, this might be of use, right? So you have your user reconnaissance. You have your host reconnaissance. So this is, how do you recon the username? How do you recon the host, right? And these are basic commands that you're typically going to see. And then you have your internal scanning. Are they looking for ARP? Are they using ping? Now, people might say, well, people use Nmap for scanning. Okay, but if I take over your machine on your work computer, do you have Nmap sitting there? No. If I go download Nmap, you think anyone's going to notice? Yeah. So I'm going to use port or ping to port scan. Why? Because ping is typically allowed for network troubleshooting, right? So I can use ping and set up a couple lines and do a network scanner and scan the entire network, right? So if I know that, then I know how many real users are using ping every day. Maybe a handful, but realistically it might be net ads or something. So I might exclude them and do your threat hunt very actionable and intelligent, right? Make sure it's tailored to what you're looking for. And that's something they don't really cover in here. And I think that's something that's really important is you see people when they start threat hunting, they're just spraying and praying and like, well, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this. And it's like, great, but do you even know what it is once you find it? How can you actually take that and do something with it, right? If you can just find the information and go, yeah, someone ran this command, that doesn't help. If you can run that and say, yeah, you can run this command and get information or whatever, do you have a way to actionably prevent that, right? And that's where you're really trying to do threat hunts, almost like the scientific method, where you're taking a hypothesis and you're trying to prove it. And if you do, what does that mean, right? And then how do you beat that? So here, the hunt for discovery tactic involves detecting unusual information, so anomalous behavior, using this. In this case, they're talking about host recon activity, internal network, and active directory execution. So host recon, we're going to use the winlog beat. So if you go up here and you look, we will go to the actual Splunk instance here. If they're even using Splunk, it doesn't look like it. There we go. Hopefully this is up and running. Sometimes it takes a while. So, okay, so they're using Elastic. That's fine. Nope, didn't want that. Wanted to make it bigger. There we go. And I believe it was just admin. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, no, it's Elastic. Duh. I'm an idiot. Okay, so this should get us in there. And you can see by using the following KQL query, we will hunt process creations using event ID 1. So what's that mean? They're looking and they're saying, hey, winlog. Come on. So we're in the winlog beat. That's what we want. There's only winlog beat and packet beat. We want to go ahead and copy that paste. We're saying, hey, the winlog event ID needs to be 1, which is process creation, right? And then we want the process name to be who am I, host name, net, system info, IP config, netstat, all those things that we just talked about, right? So we go ahead and say update that. Now I don't know what the timeline is on this, so let's just change it to, I don't know, last 24 hours. We'll say 15 hours just so we don't have to change it. Okay. Does it say how long? Okay, here we go. July 9th. So they've got like specific dates. So give me this. There we go. Okay, so July 9th. Come on, what the hell? Give me the time. Thank you. Okay. Oh, we just do last 1 year. There shouldn't be anything else in here. Unless that's a different... Oh, it's 2023. Okay, so we're way back. All right. Let's see. There we go. So someone actually already had it saved. That's March to March. We don't want March to March. We want... I think we want March to March, right? Months... Let's try years. The question is how much of this do we have? So we'll say last 5 years. I'm assuming this is test data, so it shouldn't have an insane amount of stuff in here. So if you look, yeah, I put last 15 years. We'll refresh. And ideally, yeah, it's the same pretty much regardless of what you do because it's test data. So that's what I was trying to do, is just get it all so we can just see it. Okay, took me forever to get there, but I did it. Okay, so it looks like they're trying to show you, in addition, ensure the following fields are added as columns. So you want to go over here, make sure that the actual columns are added, which is host name. So we want agent host name, right? You want to see what the host name is. You want username. That's probably agent name here. You could actually go to, oh, they actually have it down here as host name. So we'll go to host name. There's host name. So they're using host.name. We got to make sure we match it so that we don't get crazy. Go down to user. There it was. Username. Then you want process parent command and then process parent command line and then process command line. Okay, there we go. Now we'll go back up and we'll get rid of the first one I did, which was the agent host name. So, okay, so we're looking at the same thing they are. I'm going to make this full screen because it's going to be really hard to do without making it full screen. And we'll follow this along and then we'll go through and actually answer the questions. So based on the results, it could be seen that Bill Hawkins has executed multiple enumeration tools. Well, let's check. Okay, so I don't see Bill Hawkins, but there we go. Okay. So Bill Hawkins, he's used update.exe. He used PowerShell to download a OneDrive file, which looks to be, install.txt file. Okay. He's using who am I, pretty much everything we just talked about, right? He's using netgroup, domain admin. So he's pretty much using everything we just talked about. So you can see right off the bat, if this was a real threat hunt, we would be going through our logs looking for these. We find them, and right away we either A, found someone in our environment, or B, Bill's doing something he shouldn't be doing, or C, he's a security person or something, because doing one of these isn't inherently bad. Doing them all at the same time can raise some red flags. So if he has a business reason to do it, then maybe, yeah, we just found, hey, that's fine. But maybe we need to say, if we see more than one of these, we need an alert on it. And then if we see multiple alerts, we need to have an investigation on it, right? We need to have some sort of actionable sequence. If you don't, the threat hunt is just wasted, because, yeah, you might have found somebody in there, but if you kick me out of an environment based on finding me doing enumeration, I can get right back in. Why? Because you didn't find how I actually got in. So that kind of shows you got to find what the actual way in was, right? Or get alerted every time they do that so you can kick them out right away rather than wait till a threat hunt happens. Okay, so to do this, we can get the parent ID of the process logs. Okay, so this is, he's running who am I. They just grabbed one specifically, and they said, click the drop down button of the first execution of who am I. Okay, and find the parent process. So right there, parent process 6324. Okay, and then they said, using this parent ID, we can create a new KQL query, which says on this host name and the win log event ID and process parent ID of 6324. And they get that and they say, hey, what are we looking at, right? And that's where we saw those PowerShell commands, and there's the file install.txt, blah, 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 right? Based on the result, we see that the command.exe was spawned by PowerShell, right? Well, we see that because right there, it's PowerShell downloading it, blah, blah, okay? And you can see, yep, cmd exe, okay. This may indicate the script downloaded by the PowerShell script may be a reverse shell script or a command and control agent, which confirms the suspicion, right? Obviously. So we see it right away. Then we go, okay, so now we're going over to internal network scanning. So before we do that, let's see if there's any questions that have what we just did. What is the name of the account that seems to be executing host enumeration commands on DC01? Well, we saw that right at the beginning, right? DC01, right here, DC01, 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 command admin, who am I, domain, and it's saving it all to this random file. So it is, username is backup ADM. Pretty easy to find. Just copied the exact command they gave us. Following the port scanning activity. Okay, so let's go to the port scanning activity, right? Where do we switch here? Okay. Here we go. So in the following scenario, we're going to use the packet beat. So right away, go over here and switch to packet beat, because you're using a different log set, right? You don't want to use the same log set. Indicate index to hunt for unusual internal network connections from all hosts on July 9th, 2023. Moreover, we'll correlate the network activity and identify the process that initiated it. Okay, so you can see we have nothing here, right? Well, for one, we can get rid of these filters. We have nothing here, right? Okay, fine. So, create the network activity, identify the process, start using the visualize library. So we're going to go over here. We're going to say, boom, visualize library. Perfect. Create our first one, right? And you can see we're going to kind of set our table. So we're going to say, hey, we want our lens. And keep in mind, the reason I'm flying through this, if you guys are wondering, is every single sim you use is going to be set up different. They all can, I say they all, most of them can do similar things. Some of them are just built on elk, things like that. But the reality is they all are similar, but they're not going to be the exact steps. So I'm not worried that you know the exact steps. I'm more worried that you find a way to make the query to get what you need, right? So now what we want to do is take this KQL query. We want to say set the table index to be packet beat. Okay. So we want the table index right here, packet beat. Okay. Wait till that. There we go. Wait, there we go. So now they came in. Okay. And we want the rows to be hostname, source IP. So we need hostname. Where's the hostname? There we go. host name. Okay. And we'll say, now we want, what all would you say? So we wanted host name, something else, right? Rows is host name, source IP, and destination IP. Okay. Source IP and destination IP. Source IP and destination IP. If it'll scroll, Jesus. Okay. So here's our, oh, that didn't work. Come on. Okay, so what we'll do, that's a vertical. Did say rows, so I need to change the, if you look, they have it as a table. We need to change it to a table. Where's the table at? They don't have a table. All right, let's reset the layer. Packet beat. I don't know why I can't change it to a table though. There we go. Okay. Table. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. So we got destination IP. Maybe. There we go. And then we'll say source IP. And then we'll say maybe. And then the other one was host name. Okay. So now we've got those all in there. We can kind of start correlating some of that data, right? So now we'll take it up here and we'll add this as a filter. This is the filter they gave us. So hopefully, oh no, just save that part, huh? Okay. And all we're doing is adding a different way to visualize it. That's really all you're doing. You're creating a table based on the search, right? Super easy. Sound or looks complex if you've never done it. It's not complex. You're basing it on this query, this filter, and you're taking the data and you're putting it in a different format. That's it. It's not crazy. Don't overcomplicate it. You're just taking the results and saying, I want them in this format so I can see better. That's all you're doing. Okay, so upon checking the results above, the highlight number 4, so that's this one, right? 9,000 queries, 9,351 of these, right? That's both are the source IPs, and then here's the workstations. So these two hosts, workstation 2 and interserve whatever, right there, right, are highly notable since they generated connections to 1,023 unique destination ports. Now, you can see I don't have the same thing as them. Don't really know why. I don't know what they, let's see, they got top values of host name, top values source IP, top values. Oh, it's just the order I have them in. Doesn't really matter. Mainly because I'm just looking at records and it still shows the same thing. Just shows them in a different order. Anytime you see a huge anomaly like this, it doesn't really matter which format you have it in. I just put them in different order so the result's different. But you can see, because like if I took this, okay, this thing's really slow, so it may not let me. Yeah, it's not gonna let me. That's fine. So I can take the host name. There we go. Okay, and then you can see here. Here's your DC whatever, and I don't know why I don't have the unique ones. Oh, they put it down here. Unique count of destination port. Okay, so we'll unique count of destination port. So we'll say down here, unique count of destination port. At least that's what they had, right? So we want it on, there we go. So we want it like that. And you can see they have 1,023. Each that would be unique in itself if they had the exact same amount. But you're seeing that there's anomalies regardless. They're sending way more records, and there's obviously a discrepancy here of destination port. So that tells you really all cybersecurity is, I say this all the time, is patterns and anomalies. That tells you there's an anomaly. There's something weird here. So why, right? Could be just a service account's messed up and it's just spraying, or it could be something malicious, right? Like a C2 command and control. So now they're saying, hey, using sysmon event ID number 3, so they're going back to the previous thing, right? And they're saying, hey, we want sysmon event ID 3. We were able to correlate the potential port scan activity to a process name in.exe, because they can see, or you can see here, they actually took it, said, okay, this 1024, whatever, we can go through here and we can actually expand these and say, hey, what's going on here? What's the reasoning this is going on? And they did, and it was in.exe, which, like I said, maybe they have something in their environment called in.exe and they know what it is. Probably not in this case, right? So okay, so now we're gonna go. Looks like moreover can be included. The originating host is from workstation 2 and the target is server 01, which makes sense why we saw the exact correlation of activity, right? Okay, it seems like these connections were initiated by a user account, not a service account. So I just said it could be a service account, right? They looked into that. Only successful connections established are logged by sysmon event ID 3, meaning all these ports logged were identified as open. Okay, so now following a threat hunter's mindset. So let's go down here and answer this question real quick. Following the port scan activity investigation, what is the parent process of in.exe? Well, let's go in here, right? Let's expand. Whoops. So let's actually expand on this. So let's go ahead and filter for this real quick. Okay, so those are just the ones that workstation 2's gone to. We'll get rid of that filter. I just want to see, because they said it was the exact same amount as this one, right? The in server, whatever that is. So that's what was actually talking to each other. So now we can say using sysmon event ID, we were able to correlate the potential port scanning activity to a process named in.exe. Well, they gave us the process name, right? So we can actually go back here, go to discovery. Excuse me. I don't really care. They saved us the screenshot already. We can get rid of this. And the nice thing is, okay, this thing is laggy if you guys can't tell. The nice thing is we can just search for in.exe and see what comes up. Now we got to switch from packetbeat to winlog, but now, depending on, you can see we have 44 hits. Pretty easy to check. Process name in.exe. You can pretty much go to any of them. And you can look at the parent process. There's your process. Let's see. Process parent ID is 1852. And we can say, excuse me, in.exe and parent process. I didn't see it there. Process parent command line. No, what was it? Process PID. Okay, and so process. No, I want parent process, not process. Maybe I passed it. I hope not. Okay, so that's the process ID. It's coming from exe. Process ID is 1852. 222. There had to be a parent process here. I'm gonna actually do this and then see if I can see it. It's easier sometimes for me to look at them this way, just to see if there's any differentiation, because this is the one I opened and it's different than this one. So I wanted to see if there's different fields to look at. Process, okay, process name, process parent ID is 1852, so we'll just look for it. I didn't realize it was process PID, which is parent ID, so I actually had it right. I just misread it. I thought it was saying process ID, but it's saying process PID. Okay, process.PID. Where are you at? Okay, I don't know why it's doing that. So we'll say process.PID, and we'll say equals, we want to equal 1852. Search that, we get 17 hits, which narrows us down a little bit. Okay, so that gives us all the processes that are actually running from that. So they won't, or they should all be that in.exe, but it went from 44 to 17, so we narrowed it down quite a bit. And you can see, okay, some of these are, that's a sysmon log. Network connection detected, so there's your in.exe connecting to the network. Okay, so we're starting to see what he actually did, egress, so he's actually going out, connecting to the network. So this in.exe is probably a C2 type of communication. It's sending it out. Let's see. Okay. And I'm just looking at them. I'm not going through on a specific one. Excuse me. I've been sick, so. All right, so we're going to go back to the in.exe. I wanted to see how much it narrowed it down. It did not narrow it down. I mean, it narrowed it down, but a lot of them are the same, which makes sense. Okay, so we want this in.exe. I don't want to filter it out. What are we looking for again? Following a threat hunter is okay. And identify the events generated. Yep. This can backtrack the events before the execution of the port scanning activity. Moreover, the attacker may utilize the information. So what was our question? Following the port scanning activity was the parent process of in.exe. Well, then we should just be able to say the process ID. So I was looking for the wrong thing. As always, where was it? What was it? 1852. That's the parent process. So we can just go copy, and we want process ID, not parent process, not in process either. Process ID. What is the name, or what is the process ID field on here? It's obviously not that. So what is the process ID name? Host ID. Okay. There's got to be a process ID. Process parent ID. User ID. Oh, it might be winlog. Winlog process parent ID. Okay, so now we're looking at 2416. Okay. I didn't see the, I could just be missing it, but I don't see the winlog just process ID. Let's do the thread. Maybe you guys see it and I don't. Wouldn't surprise me. So winlog, what did we say? Dot thread. Process.thread. Process.thread.id equals. Try that out. Get rid of the, there we go. Oh, we got 31,000 now. Now we're really cruising here. Okay, let's see what we got right off the bat. So we see the network enumeration, and it's using PowerShell, so we see that right off the bat. We could narrow it down even more by using the workstation, but this is the Bill Hawkins on the workstation. So all I search for is the alerts that are in the same thread as that in.exe. So that means in.exe at some point comes into play here because it's in the same thread. Okay, that's PowerShell, egress. So it's probably going to be further down, but you can see that we found the PowerShell. I'm just trying to see if I can find the in.exe. But so that's one way to find it. It was the long way, but it was a way to find it. I just searched the thread ID, which I would do anyway, because I want to see what else they did. Now, if it came up 31,000, I would change my filtering, but I don't need to. I could see the same person on the same machine run PowerShell in the same thread, so and use that for connection. So PowerShell.exe would be my answer there anyway. And you can, if you're more familiar with Elk, I don't use Elk. I have used it. I don't use it. So if you're more familiar with Elk, there's an easy way to do it, I'm sure. You could probably just go to the parent process and search for it, and there you have it. But I didn't see the process ID to search for, and I probably just missed it. So that's the long way to do it. What is the full command line value of the sharphound.exe process? This one's probably pretty easy. And the reason I say that is you probably can just do this. And keep in mind, not all sims allow you to just run that like that. And what are we looking for? Full command line value. Okay. Okay, you can see right here, see users, Bill Hawkins documents, sharp. There's all that. Now we just need to find the command line, which you can see we added the parent or the process command line, so we should be able to see it here without having to do anything. Oh no, we didn't add it. That's why. Okay, process command line. There we go. Minimize that. We should be able to see it right here. There you go. There's your C users build, tax C all. There you go. All right, so now we're moving on to privilege escalation. So this is where, if you guys are paying attention, they just move on to something totally different. So just know, like, we did the discovery piece. Now we're saying, hey, there's privilege escalation as well defined. So we're going to talk about that and dive into that. So privilege escalation, there's the MITRE attack that framework you can read about, understanding the tactic. So this is where finding ways that you would use privilege escalation, you're searching for them in your environment, right? Such as run as, accessing control abuse, all that stuff. So you can kind of make these threats or these hunts really anything that you can do with privilege escalation. If you think it's vulnerable in your environment, you can try it, right, and see what you find. So starting with the winlog-b index to hunt for unusual processes spawned by the system. So we're going to look for anything spawned by NT authority system, right? So when it says win event log ID number 1 is system process creation, username, system, and not NT authority system. So I actually said it wrong the first time, but basically we're looking for anything built or made by system that's not NT authority system. Excuse me. We get 6 hits. So, and you can see we have the command line. We've got that OneDrive. We saw that earlier, the OneDrive. And then you have this tieworker.exe, which I'm assuming is your malicious activity that they're talking about. But we'll go through and look at it. So So we're ignoring these that have it as its parent field or parent user, and that makes sense because if it's spawned by NT authority system, it doesn't really like you're not going to go, hey, I'm NT authority system, give me system access. You have it already. You don't need it. So that's what they're saying. And you can see here, they actually have a Windows tasks spoofer. Did I just not see the spoofer? Oh, that's process command line. Excuse me. So let's go look at the process parent command line. Let's add that in here. And you can see there it is, the spoofer.exe. So we just didn't add that process parent. So this Windows spoofer.exe downloaded this DLL file, which then ran this DLL. Okay, pretty easy to find once you know what you're looking for. Keep in mind, when you're doing threat hunts, this is how it should be. You should go into it with a hypothesis of what you're going to find if it happened. And what I see a lot of times with threat hunters when they're first starting is they're like, okay, this should give me this result, and they don't find it, and they think they're doing something wrong, or they try to dig dirt deeper and stuff like that. If you didn't find it and you know you're doing it right, that's good. That means you don't have that attacker in your environment. You don't have something going on. If you think you're doing it incorrectly, that's a different story. But if you know, if I do this and I should get this result, if an attacker's in the environment and you have that planned out previously, you know I did it, it didn't give me the result, that means there's not an attacker in there. And sometimes you see that where you see people think they're doing something wrong or they have to dive deeper. And you don't have to dive deeper, like just because you want to, right? I mean, you can, but when you do a threat hunt, you want it to be strategic, thought out, planned, and you want it to stay within a scope. So that way you're not just kind of like spraying and praying and like hoping you find something. You don't want to find something ideally, right? So now analyzing the details of the spoofer.exe process, they're looking here for that spoofer.exe. Let's see what questions we have so we can answer those as we go and not have to. What is the full command line value of the process spawned by spoofer? Well, spawned by spoofer right here. So that's why I wanted to do that before we went off of the thing. What is the name of the other service that was abused by besides SNMP trap? Okay, so whoops, go back up. Okay. And we're going to go back. We're going to check out this spoofer.exe winlog event ID 1 and process name equals spoofer. So we're trying to dig in deeper to what is this spoofer deal, right? And we only have one task. So we probably could have just clicked on the task since there was only one anyway, but we can go through here and look at the actual log. And it says here, what are we looking for? Based on the result, it can be observed that a suspicious encoded PowerShell command right here is the culprit. I would actually decode all of that, obviously. I don't know if they need us to. To understand the purpose of the spoofer process, let's use the binary hash and virus total and see if it's attributed malicious binary. So they run the spoofer, obviously, into virus total. Find out, obviously, 54 people report it. That's pretty bad. So, obviously, it's malicious. At this point, you know you have a attack, right? You probably knew before that, but you weren't 100%. Now you're pretty certain, right? According to virus total, the binary is attributed to print spoofer. This confirms our suspicion, abusing the SE impersonate privilege. Okay. This explains why the default app pool account was able to spawn a child process that owned by the system, right? Which is what we saw initially. Following a threat hunter's mindset, the next step of this investigation is to identify the subsequent actions. So what happened after that? For the last scenario, we will, moreover, it is also good to trace the events generated on the compromised workstation before the success. Okay, so here you have the actual event, right? This spoofer.exe or whatever. They're saying you should, at this point, when you know the attack's happening, you should go back and see what happened before that. Obviously, now you say excessive service permission abuse. So here, aside from abusing account privileges, threat actors also hunt for excessive permissions, right? So that's pretty common. You've heard of least privilege. Almost every company has creep in their privileges. That's because if you worked over here and then you work over here, the chances of you maintaining some permissions or something is pretty likely. So that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, did someone accidentally leave me too many permissions, accidentally assign me something, something like that. This KQL query above is focused on hunting registry modifications. So we're going to check that out. I didn't add to it, did I? Okay, I thought I added to it. So you get 20 hits. Boom. There's no processes. So look at theirs. They've got the host name, process name, registry path. So we want, get rid of these, get rid of these. We want the host name, obviously. We want the process name. And we're just copying them. So if you're asking where I got this, I'm just copying their picture. Process name, registry path, which makes sense for this query, right? Okay, there's your registry path. And then win log event data details. Win log event data details. There you go. Okay, so now we're looking at it. We're saying, what do we got? We've got services.exe, changing all of these, okay, and we're looking for something wrong, obviously, right? So you can see, based on the results, 2 events are highly notable. Modifications of 2 services. So there's 2 services that are actually modified. And sorry, guys, my throat is really dry, and it's getting hard to keep talking. Okay, so we're looking for, really we have 20 hits here, so we don't have that many. And we're looking for, well, there's the SNMP trap right there. And then Bill down here, you guys can't see this. Hold on, let me make sure I can show you guys, because you guys can't see it. But I'll just move it over here a little bit so you can see it. Hopefully you guys can see down here. Bill Hawkins' name is down here, so that's how I'm identifying these if you didn't see it. But they're the only things that were, the only 2 that had the data details of Bill Hawkins. So it looks like update.exe is what is actually changing these, and it looks like SNMP trap is one of them, which we knew. And then the other one, it says, what is the name of the other one? It was Spooler. Okay, and then was the MD5 hash of the update.exe binary, which is the next step we're going to do. So now that the events are around the logs, or we investigated all the process creation events, let's analyze the prior events generated before it. So, okay, I think we skipped a step here. Okay. So we found that, right, based on the events, there's 2 notable things, the spooler and the SNMP or SMP trap, Jesus Christ. They are notable after excluding all registry modifications with service host.exe. Yep. Okay. Let's dig deeper. So you can view surrounding documents. So if we actually go to this one, and I'm going to stick to the spooler one because the question asked about the spooler one. So we're going to view surrounding documents. We want to view things around it, right? And we see this sc.exe, command exe, PowerShell exe, right? Once the view surrounding documents page is open, filter all events with win log event ID 1. We don't really have to. There's 5, but if you want to, you can. I'm not going to with 5. And what we're looking for is we're looking for this one right here, which is the services.exe. Right here. It's the only one here. Open that bad boy up. And now that the events are on the log, we are investigating our all process creation events. Let's analyze the prior events generated before it, okay? So upon checking the sc.exe process before the modification of the SMP trap, right, it can be seen that the service modification was done using the sc.exe. So if we look, you can see here, they're using this update thing. And if you look at the timelines, right, look at before that, and you have sc.exe. So you're looking at things around there. sc.exe was right before the services.exe, right? Upon checking the sc.exe process before the modification, it can be seen that the service, blah, blah, with the arguments. So let's look at the arguments. Do they have the, they don't have it in there what they did, but the arguments itself for this, we can look at. Let's see. New process has been created. Command line cmd.exe. Okay. I didn't see any command arguments. Process args. Okay. So I could have just passed it. Process args would be right there. Let's go to the next sc.exe. There's only 2 of them. See if there's any command line arguments here. This is the process create. There it is. Okay, sc.exe config spooler bin path update.exe. So they use service create to create a service, setting up persistence. Okay. So now that we have seen the cause of the modification, let's check the subsequent command.exe. So you're just following the path, right? Process after the registry was set. Whoops. So they want to look after. According to the records, it can be observed that the user then started modifying SNMP trap service. So basically, they use this update.text in a privileged account to then change something else, right? And you can see, let's use the following query to confirm the suspicion. And if you look, update.exe, boom, is ran by services.exe, which means there's a service that's automatically using this at this point. What's the MD5 hash of the update.exe binary? Okay, so based on the results of the system account, spawn the update.exe binary. This confirms suspicion of SNMP traps service permission abuse, leading to following a threat hunting step. The next step of the investigation to identify the subsequent actions made by the attacker. Blah blah blah. Okay, so what is the MD5 hash of the update.exe? Well, we can actually go back. Whoops. Should be able to just go back here, go to discover, and just look at, I don't know how many there are on here. Update.exe. Shouldn't be that many. Oh, there's 7,000, so I lied about that. All right, we're just going to copy this one then, since we already have all the information. I assumed with the test data, they just put just that stuff. So now we got 5, right? Okay, we're going to look at the whole thing. Boom. And we're just going to look and see if they provide the hash. Here's MD5 hash. Okay, and this is for update.exe. Yep. So then you just go ahead and throw that bad boy in there. There you go. Okay, so now we're talking about credential access. So credential access, exactly what it sounds like, right? We now have credentials. We're getting credentials. We're dumping them. We're gathering them from Active Directory. There's millions of ways, right? You can get them from the local machine. You can get them from services. You can get them from Kerberos tickets. You can get them from Active Directory. You can, depending on where you're at in the attack chain, you can get them pretty well anywhere. So we're kind of digging down deeper, right? So let's look at the questions first. So that if we find, what's the name of the process that created the lsas.dmp file? So, okay. So understanding the tactic, you don't really need to understand the tactic. If you're looking for them in a file, you're just going to look for them. You can use that automation. You can do it many ways. You can dump the LSAS using Mimikatz. That's a pretty common one, right? You can do domain credentials, credential spying, so watching the, all kinds of things. You can do LLM&R. I mean, there's that's a whole nother thing. But so we're going to go to the winlog event. We're going to look for Mimikatz dump creds, secure URL SA, privilege. Basically, you're looking for keywords that indicate that someone ran one of these, right? Say, there we go. Okay, we've got 3. So ideally in a threat hunt, you wouldn't have a bunch of these. If you do, right? Because that means you've got some things to worry about. Okay, so we got the process creation. Let's see. Process create, PowerShell.exe, and here you go. They're invoking Mimikatz.ps1, dump creds. What's that mean? They're telling it, hey, Mimikatz, dump these creds, right? So what were they even asking us? What is the name of the process that created the lsas.dump file? Well, let's see if... Okay, so that then you can see the parent command line. Invoke Mimikatz, PS1, dump creds, admin. That output is not the lsas.dump file. but we can there's no way that's Mimikatz. It's too small. So let's go to the other one. So we see Mimikatz, right? Obviously, Mimikatz there for sure. Let's see if we see the same thing here. Same thing here. Invoke Mimikatz. Again, they're saving them. If you look, they're saving them to this random file. I don't see anything that screams the LSAS file that they're talking about. Keep going. Same thing. Again, there's the file. They're not saving it to the whatever file they're talking about, the LSAS one. So let's keep going. So we found them. Based on the results, you can see that there's been an attempt to dump LSAS credentials from Workstation 1. Moreover, the attack used the PowerShell version of Mimikatz, invoke Mimikatz, right? As an alternative, threat actors use the task manager and create a process dump of LSAS, right? This attack also leaves traces, which security analysts can leverage. So you can see, by default, dump generated files generated by task manager are written to process name.dmp. I think that was, I think that was our question, right? What's the name of the process that created? Okay, well, that's not even close. Okay. So they're just saying that's the process name, so we got to find the process name. So we're looking for this lsas.dump. And the more you know attacks, the easier threat hunting becomes, because if you know how something's going to happen, you know what's the command line for it, what's the indicators, right? And you can start searching for them, right? So here we're looking for, okay, there's this lsas.dump, right? So now what's what actually caused that? Well, let's keep finding it. Taskmanager.exe. So that's what actually ran there. So that should be your first answer. All right. Out of the 4 GUIDs used to hunt DCSync, what is the value of the GUID seen in the existing logs? So let's move on to the next one. All right, we're still up here. Okay, so we got the dump file. Based on the result, the account Billhawk has dumped the LSAS process and create a file in app local temp, which we see right here. Temp, right? There it is. Now, so we're switching on. We're saying credential harvesting via DCSync. If you guys don't know the attack, check it out. It's actually a really cool attack. There was a guy that did a talk on it years ago when it came out, and it's really cool. In the following scenario, we're going to use it. Okay. So DCSync abuses how domain controllers in Active Directory network communicate and replicate data. So you know DCs talk to each other. They say, hey, I just updated a password. You update a password, right? DCSync issues. Makes sense, right? If I can say I'm a DC or domain controller and you believe me, we can have some sync issues there, because I could theoretically say, well, I just changed admin password, and you might go, oh, let me sync up, right? Or vice versa. I could say, hey, change this password, whatever. You could do all kinds of things. So, okay, so using the Discover tab, we will hunt for unusual replication attempts. Okay, and you can see it's because, only enterprise admins and domain controller machine accounts have these privileges by default. So we're going to use the event ID 4662, and we're going to use this event data mask, and we log event ID or data properties. So if you know the property that you're looking for, you can search it. If we search it, how many we get? 37 hits. Okay, well, if you look in here, we get the same one on repeat. That's good, because that means that's probably our answer, right? So if we copy that one, because it asks which one's in our logs, hopefully it doesn't need that piece. Your answer is too short. Matches the answer format represented by underscores. Okay, so I think what they're saying is I need this. May not be in English, okay? Interesting. I have not gotten on Tryhackme since they changed the answer format. That's kind of interesting. They do it that way now. Okay, so what was the question again? Out of the four goods used to hunt, the value of the goods seen in the existing log. Well, here you go. Seen in the existing log. Scroll down. Okay, it was saying this one. Well, there's multiple seen in here. That's probably why. So it said out of the 4. Well, I see that one. This is the one I see currently out of the 4 we searched. But I'm assuming they don't want the that there. And then that means there's an underscore, which means they must be cutting one off. Oh yeah, there's a 2 at the end. I was going to say it's cutting it off. There we go. So it's cutting off. So what is the name of the first process spawned by? So what we did is we go up here. We searched here. For this query, we'll use the event ID 4662. Lastly, we have also added the mask value. The value signifies the user has enough privileges to conduct the replication. Okay, so based on the result, it can be seen that backup ADM account has attempted to do a DCSync attack. This may indicate the discovered account is either a domain admin or enterprise admin, right? It has to be an admin, an enterprise admin, or a domain admin. That's a big thing because if you find that a DCSync attack happened, that means someone has domain admin permissions. That's a pretty big deal because that means they probably already got you pretty much owned at that point. But if you're looking to find out if someone did that, that would be how you do it, right? So we can investigate the suspicious backup ADM account and dig in a little deeper. And the next question is, what's the name of the first process spawned by Jade Burke on workstation 1? Well, you can see right here is your hostname workstation 1 and event ID and username Jade Burke. So all we got to do. And by the way, the event ID 1 is just process creation. That's why they keep using it, if you're wondering. Okay, so we've got 15 hits from Jade Burke. And the question is, what was the name of the first process spawned? Okay, if the very first process spawned, if these are in alphabetical order, be down here. I said alphabetical, I meant numerical. If they were in alphabetical order, this would take me a lot longer. And there is the first one. Let's see if that's accurate, if that actually works. There you go. Okay, so that is harvesting credentials. Now we're going to do lateral movement. So some of this is kind of backwards. If you already had admin or enterprise domain admin, all that stuff, you wouldn't need to move laterally because you have every account. You have domain admin access. You could just start logging in. You wouldn't need to do much, but here we go. So lateral movement via WMI. So we're going to look to see, has the parent process WMI caused anything with when event ID 1 process creation, right? Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy one here. You're basically saying, hey, WMI, what have you done? What have you created, right? When you were the parent process, what'd you create? And you can see, based on the results, it can be seen that WMI prvse.exe has spun multiple instances of command.exe. So you can just go through here and look at them and say, let's see if we can find the command.exe. And to be fair, I'm not going through here and doing this where I should be adding these in every time because it does get kind of annoying. I'm just looking through it, trying to figure it out. But you can see here, they're saying, here it is, spawning who am I, CD, who am I, net user, admin, blah, blah. These are all things that a normal user wouldn't do, because why would a normal user use WMI to spawn command.exe to type who am I? A normal user could just open the command line and type who am I. So that's why it's probably malicious. So what's the name of the account that also uses WMI exec on workstation 1 from Clifford Miller? Okay, I don't fully understand that because it's saying, okay. Oh, aside from Clifford Miller. Okay, sorry, I misread that. So what we'll do now is say we want to do the WMI, and we're looking on workstation 1. So there's Clifford Miller. We know Clifford Miller is part of this, right? So we're going to say, based on the results, it can be seen that it's multiple instances of command line workstation 1 using the account of Clifford Miller, which I didn't see, but we'll go ahead and say username. That way we can just look at it. There's backup ADM, Clifford Miller, and Jade.Burke. So there's probably your answer, Jade Burke. Jade.Burke. Excluding the false positive account, how many events were generated by the potential pass the hash authentication? So we now know, how do we look to see if you're using WMI, right? And these are examples, but these are just very specific examples. You can see they ran these, 2 minutes. You can set up threat hunts that are much more sophisticated than this and go a lot further in depth. So now we need to check, hey, is there the pass the hash, right? So pass the hash attack, pretty common, right? I'm going to use a hash to try to log in rather than a password. And I don't know why I said it that way, but so if I get a hold of someone's hash, I'm going to try and pass it over and see if you'll authenticate with me. Try not to sneeze there, sorry. And you can see we have Jade Burke, anonymous login, Clifford Miller, anonymous login. Those would be the ones that I would check first, right? Based on the results, can we observe that there are 2 users, excluding anonymous, since it's a known false positive. Okay, so they know it's a false positive in this environment, have potentially authenticated to workstation 1. So same 2 people. I don't know if they're just doing the same 2 people the whole time, but however, it can be seen that the authentication of Clifford Miller came again from the presumed compromised workstation. So at this point, I don't have the IP in here. We could do the host name. There we go. So there's your workstation 1. At this point, we're assuming workstation 1's compromised, right? If you've seen multiple attacks on workstation 1 that when you're doing a threat hunt, you'd probably already have quarantined that machine. But your attack's probably a lot bigger than that at that point if you're this deep in and finding it. So now they're saying came again from the presumed workstation, source IP 10. Okay. Focus on Clifford Miller's first log entry using the, okay, so now they want us to go to Clifford Miller's first log entry. View surrounding documents. So we want to see what's around it. What's our next question? How many events were generated from the, oh crap, I didn't look. 1, 2, wait, excluding what? False positives. Okay, so did we count them? I didn't pay attention. We'll have to go back and actually, so 12 minus 2 is 10, so it should be 10. Excluding the executions of the CD command was the full command line of the subsequent process spawned after the successful pass the hash authentication. Well, we can see here, this was our pass the hash, right? So we're talking about after. I don't see any command line, which is interesting. Excuse me. So now we're going to look at, did they add the filter? Oh, they added all the filters in. Okay. We shouldn't have to. Once the trying documents, apply the following filters to final subsequent process creation. Okay. So we'll add this filter, host name, add filter, host name, dot name is, and we'll say workstation 1, right? So save that one. We want the next filter. There we go. We're starting to get them. Next filter was Clifford Miller. I think they're pretty much all, no, those are systems, so we'll add that filter in. User.name, whoops, user.name. We want it to be Clifford Miller. Give me Clifford. I don't see Clifford Miller in here, which is interesting. Hostname, did I get the hostname wrong? User.name. Why is Clifford Miller not in here? Okay. I don't know why that one's not showing up. Okay, Clifford Miller, and when event log ID is number 1. Okay, not super worried about that. I'm actually more, we'll load 10. And the only reason I'm doing that is so I can see more of it, but here you go. Okay, so here's where he scheduled it. At least I'm assuming. Install arguments, okay. Whoops. Okay, that's all messed up. So excluding the execution of the CD command was the full command line value of the subsequent process spawned after the first successful one. Well, for some reason I can't. We'll do 10 of these babies too. There we go. So for some reason I can't do that, so I don't know. But we can see here is probably the full command line after excluding the CD command. So there you go. I looked before. For some reason, it still didn't copyright, which was weird. Okay, there we go. And you can see, thanks, congratulations. I don't know how to go next. Okay. Okay, I guess that's it. I can't go back. But anyway, so you can see you basically are looking at identifying the initial thing that you think might be occurring or that you think you might not be getting alerted on. Make sure your threat hunts are intelligent. Don't just waste your time threat hunting for threat hunting's sake. Also, make sure you have actionable results, right? If every one of these threat hunts I just did, that pass the hash one, for instance, if I don't have a way to stop that pass the hash, right, or to set up alerting on it, it's a useless thing because I'm going to have to run this all the time. So what would I do? The actionable result would be alert on that query, right? If you see this, alert me. That's the action, right? Now I have a detection set up. If you're just threat hunting just because you're like, hey, I just want to threat hunt, what's the point? You have to have actionable results, right? So hopefully this helps you guys. Hopefully you guys learn something and can take this and start doing threat hunting yourself. Realistically, these are specific threat hunts, but it should show you this is just them going through old logs and looking for stuff. So like you can even just do hashes, right? As simple as that. So hopefully this helps you guys. Hopefully you guys get through it, and hopefully you guys actually start thinking strategically about your threat hunts and can move forward. Thanks, guys.